another episode of 6 Degrees of Associations. Erin Keating here with my faithful co-host, Lucas McCann. Nice to see you.
On the road again. This is like my third or fourth episode from a hotel room, but that's all right.
Right? I know. We should start having the hotel sponsor us or something. But today we are excited to be welcoming Ray McDonald, president of Dynamic Benchmarking. It's going to be real hard to tell where he's from. It's definitely Boston or something like that is what I was detecting in the accent. But Ray, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. My standard line is I'm from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, yeah, it's
Yeah.
right there.
I was going to guess.
Yeah.
Brooklyn, Providence, maybe.
Yeah.
No, from another sunnier part of town, Topsail, and that's how you know that you're a native North Carolinian, that you actually call it Topsail versus Topsail Beach. So Topsail Island. Ray, thank you for being here today. We were hoping that you might at least be able to kick us off here and let us know a little bit more about dynamic benchmarking. We're in the association industry, so how can our clients think about that?
Sure. So dynamic benchmarking, we've been around for approximately 11 years now, a little longer than that. And we have served, at any given time, we serve 85 to 100 associations, and we help them with data collection. So we do a lot of benchmarking around comp and benefits is a real popular one. Operational, financial and operational. We do diversity, equity, inclusion, and we do cultural assessments. And so we're a good third-party data collector for the association. So we have a lot of tools and things that we wrap around the collections to help with with participation and to ensure that we're getting good data and that type of thing. And so it's a web-based platform, and we can link it into the AMS, or it can be standalone. We can do the marketing for the association, or they can do it, in conjunction with us. So that's what we do. Yeah.
Well, let's lean in, Ray, on just benchmarking for a second. I feel like benchmarking is to data as engagement is to membership, right? They're synonymous and they're kind of become buzzwords. But so help our audience out. Describe benchmarking versus just surveying and what other people would do with other tools to just collect member information.
Sure. So I guess that's our secret sauce is that every benchmark has a survey on the front end. Okay, so let's say you're trying to collect data for comp and benefits. Just to use that one because that's easy. So when you're trying to collect the data for comp and benefits, most associations today will use either an Excel spreadsheet, or they'll use some off the shelf product like SurveyMonkey or whatever, and they get that data. And then in order to make that data relevant to Lucas or to Erin or to Ray, they then have to collate that data and run reports on it and slice and dice it and do all those things so that the data they've collected is now relevant to their members. So typically you think of it this way, typically a survey will benefit the association only, okay? So the difference with benchmarking is benchmarking says now, whenever I, Ray McDonald, go in and look at the data, it plots me against the aggregate, okay? And it does that without somebody handling the data on the back end. So, in the back, in a survey world, you get the data, create the reports, run a static PDF, and you send it out, and it's got 30 pages, okay? But the 30 pages is the same data, just sliced and diced by different parameters. With us, they hire us. We help them. We help them, first of all, increase the engagement because you're not filling out an Excel spreadsheet. And then the thing about it is that the reporting is already done before you collect the first piece of data. So we decide from the association, we say, what reports would your end users, your members like to see? We create those reports. And then as the data is being collected, it's dynamically dropping into the database. So you don't spend time creating reports. And so when Lucas logs in, it knows that it's Lucas. And if Lucas says, I'm a member and my company is between $2 million and $5 million, and I'm located in the Southeast, and I'm a public university or whatever, you choose those filters, and the system will then display the data to you in the way you've done it without anybody in the association having to touch it. So you're giving the power of data benchmarking to your members.
So, Ray, can you give us some examples? Don't give away the secret sauce, and let's sanitize it so you don't have, give them any confidential client information. Give us some examples of reports that clients would want to see using this data on the front end, right? Because that gives you a lot of intent and tells you as the provider a lot about what it is they're looking for without having to have them, tell you what they want the data to say.
Sure. So one of the things that's important is we don't work on averages. So collecting percentiles. So we report all data back on the 25th, 50th, and 75th percentile. And of course, if you're outside of those ranges, it'll tell you that, but that's how it comes in and reports the data. And so when you're working with averages, averages and medians are not the same, and people don't realize that a lot of times. And our system gives you a true median on the data. But the type of data that can be collected, it can really be anything. And what happens is associations struggle with data collection. First of all, they struggle with participation. Everybody wants the information, but nobody wants to take the time and go put it all in. And so what we typically find, our typical client, association's been doing this for some time, their participation is waning. And because people are like, I'm filling out these same spreadsheets every year, and it takes me an hour to do it. And so they, I'm just going to use last year's data. Y'all did a report last year, I'll use that and measure against that. So with our system, we can deliver the questions via a web link, and the questions can be delivered in bite-sized pieces. So if you say we want to capture profile questions today or this week, we'll send out the profile section of the study, and then it tracks who has entered their information in, who started but maybe didn't finish. And so the system treats those people different. It says, okay, Lucas, you entered all your information. So the second email that we send out next week, if Erin didn't enter her information, she's going to get the reminder, Lucas will not. And so that's, we help with the participation, but probably most importantly is we keep it legal, because it's collecting data, especially when you're talking about organizations that have members that are in similar fields. There is quite a few things that you have to be careful of. You have to be careful of safe harbor rules, antitrust rules. All those things apply, and if you don't intrinsically know what those are, you can very easily violate those. Well, they're built into our platform. We ensure that Lucas can't run a report that allows you to see what a competitor down the street is actually charging for a product, so to speak. So that's kind of I guess what it brings. It brings simplicity to the association and allows them to collect complex data, but do it in an easier manner. Because associations are the hub for data, right? They're the hub. That's where people would go to find out information. If you're a member of a certain association and you want to know what other peers are doing, that's the natural place you would go to try to find that out. So, yeah,
I at a conference now, as I mentioned, and I said the name earlier, pre-show, which I won't hear, but I just got out of a general session where it was their chief economist, and I was an econ major, so I can nerd out on the numbers with the best of them. And they were talking about the benchmarking, the standards, and what had happened in their industry. And one of the most powerful things I think was, for the last couple of years was, I'll just say, benchmarking this information year to year. So I imagine, and you can confirm or deny, this data set, this information gets better over time, right? So that the best engagements, I would imagine, are the ones where dynamically you're putting out information is being put into your system and being able to visualize and all that, but then creating benchmarks within the benchmark to say at given periods of time. I assume that's something you can learn a lot from.
Sure, we call it trending, and so that's absolutely why the majority of our engagements with associations or multiple years. There's a big difference between a shot in time or just a picture in time versus a time frame. And so you can see trends, and that really benefits the association, because the association can then spot trends that are going on. And it really came in handy in COVID when associations were lobbying for PPP money. We helped several really large national associations trend variables that showed the impact of COVID on their members. And
oh wow, that had to come
essentially in real time.
yeah.
And so this is what's happening this is what's happening to us in 2020, and this is what happened on that same variable in 2019, 18,
right,
and so forth. And so from the the public policy that associations or the lobbying and stuff they're trying to do, they need the data a lot of times to help back up what
Sure.
they're asking for.
That's actually a good point, because I was thinking, we talk a lot about like member retention, engagement and such, but to your point, there's also government relations arms of a lot of these associations, most associations. And so certainly there are places where, Bureau of Labor Statistics and these types of things, you can go and get some sort of standard economic data. But sure, working with an organization like yourself and having that cross section across industries, as well as within the association industry in and of itself, which is different, I would imagine provides clients with a really unique way of looking at the data. And I guess, am I thinking about this right? Because I always like to put things in a little bit of like an analog situation where the layman can understand here. But 23andMe, we all know that the more you do, more people who join that database with their DNA, the better the DNA around the database around the DNA gets. So all of a sudden today, I might find out that I'm all of a sudden, more prone to cilantro disgust because more people with my DNA have gotten into the system, and apparently that's a thing now. Is that what you're talking about when you say like that data set gets richer and richer and more dynamic as more data comes in? You're able to, because of the breadth and depth of what you're able to collect, you're able to provide a better service, as opposed to, again, like someone saying, let's just pop together a SurveyMonkey and go see if we can gather some information.
Sure. Yeah, it does. It especially over time. I mean,
sure,
when you can trend, trend like variables over a 2-3 year period, it really shows what's going on. And one of the nice things about the platform that we've added is that if you let's say you put in 2021 data and it's time to put in 2022 data, you can bring forward your 2021 data and then make the changes. So if you've got, let's say you got 50 data points, and of those 50, 35 are the same as they were last year, well, that saves you 35 entries.
Sure.
You change the 15 that may have changed. So, but yeah, the more data, the better. I mean, that's the key. And then one of the things that a lot of associations don't realize when we start working with them is that if there are restrictions on that data set that you have to have in order to start reporting it back. And so if you're reporting a variable where one party makes up more than 25% of the answers to that variable, you're out of antitrust,
Right.
And so there's in the system, our product is built with guardrails on it. And by the way, we only do associations. So that's
right.
We found
specialized. When we started talking and we were talking about benchmarking, my mind went to two places. It went to government affairs, which Aaron mentioned, and membership, right? Those are, high surveying areas of an association. But I imagine there's what other, I'll just ask it, what are the other departments, divisions of an association that you would work with? I mean, education, standards, I mean, is it run the whole gamut?
Yeah, we do a lot of improvement and standards from that standpoint. We do a lot of safety. We measure safety, and we have quite a few healthcare organizations that measure like falls, for example. That's very important to measure in an organization. But I'd say the one that we do and we see in almost every association today is diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah.
And we built what's called a maturity model for associations. And so every association their members are paying attention to it. But the problem is they really don't know where to start a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And if you can't measure it, then you can't really improve on it. And
Sure.
so we've built a platform that allows the association to host. And matter of fact, Lucas Association that you're at right now, they use this for their members. So their members are saying, we don't really know where to start on this issue, but the first thing we need to do is figure out how do we rank against best practices. And
Sure.
so they use the maturity model, and it shows them how they rank against best practices. And it also can show them how they rank against the aggregate if they choose to do that. And so that's probably I'd say that is the one thing that everybody seems to be talking to us about. And then we do a cultural, we carry it to the next level. And we do a cultural assessment where the organization is not answering the questions. The individuals inside the organization are answering the questions.
Right.
And they're not going to do that if the organization itself is hosting it, because they're looking for a safe zone. And we provide that third party safe zone for them. So it's just a natural fit for us.
I love that.
I mean, we've obviously had some episodes of this series that's been focused on DEI and been really interesting. So we've pressed into some of those subjects, and the idea that you could both quantitatively and qualitatively, seemingly, is that right?
Yep.
Sort of learn from each individual. Now, I assume you press in for just the association headquarters, its members, and then do you go beyond to their industry? How does that?
Yeah, yes, we do. We can go as deep, we can go as deep a dive as they wish. So with the maturity model, that's something that the member organization would answer, and they're answering on behalf of the organization. So the cultural assessment would be where every employee in that organization would get an anonymous link that would come back, and we then present the organization with a report. So now they've got a report on what the employees think we're doing for cultural diversity, equity, and inclusion,
right.
and they can compare that with what they think they're doing with diversity, equity, inclusion. So it creates a gap analysis for them.
Yeah, that's great.
If there is a gap, it shows you.
And do you benchmark
Lucas,
that against
I've got to
other?
wrap you up, but okay, you asked that last question.
One more question. So
Yep.
Can you also, Ray, or are we breaching into an area where you can't share data? Can you also benchmark that against other like associations?
Absolutely. Not like associations, like members of that association.
Okay.
We don't keep a master database of all associations, but if we're dealing with this one association, then yes, we're keeping a master database of what their members see and what their members are doing.
Interesting.
Lucas is going to have you give away an entire consultation on this. Jeez.
I was trying not to give any secret sauce away. Aaron and I were both you could see us thinking through more questions, and this is one where we could keep going down the rabbit hole.
We only ever have a short amount of time. But yeah, I've actually, Ray, you certainly opened my eyes, and I could see that you opened Lucas's eyes on a few different things to think about in benchmarking, and specifically that whole idea around guardrails and protection of data and understanding where you might be stepping in it with antitrust and things like that is huge. And then having that ability to set maturity models for different types of clients, I think, is also really amazing. So I'm sure that our audience could have listened to you for another 25 minutes. We certainly obviously could have, but we've got to wrap it up. So by wrapping it up, I'm going to ask you, is there someone else in the industry that you feel our members could benefit from? And then after you give the name, if you would also just make sure you put a plug in for where people can find you, that would be great as well.
Sure. I think to carry it to the next level when it comes to understanding, antitrust and safe harbors and those things like that, I would recommend Jeffrey Tannenbaum.
Okay.
He is Tannenbaum Law Group. They're based out of DC.
Great.
And I would say that they're probably, Jeffrey is probably the expert in this field. And
awesome.
And
Excellent.
So he would be a good one to talk about, not just for benchmarking, but for antitrust in general, because it does have a lot of tentacles to it. So
hot topic too.
Yep. So yeah, you can reach us at it's dynamicbenchmarking.com, and that's all one word. And we would love to hear from you. I'm on LinkedIn, so if someone wants to connect with me via LinkedIn. And then our website has a chat feature that I monitor, and so if someone wants to talk with me, they can get on the website and go to the chat feature, and I should pick it up within a couple minutes.
That's awesome. Well, this was great. And I know I can already tell that Lucas is going to have a follow-up call with you, but so got one out of this chat. So we really appreciate your time, Ray and Lucas. Thank you again for joining us. I think week number 4 from a hotel room, because these are the only times that we can schedule this. So everyone, just appreciate the time and effort you put into this. I know these sessions are really helpful for our audience members. And Ray, we hope to have you back soon, but if nothing else offline, we want to make sure we connect with you on this. And we look forward to getting an introduction to Jeffrey.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys having me on, and I enjoyed the conversation.
Likewise. Thanks, Ray.